My book, 6 Feet to Independence, really what I wrote it as is the book that I wish I had been able to find when I started, because I had started out, I'm like, I'm just getting into this. I know that there's a lot I don't know, but I don't know what I don't know. So I need to figure out what I don't know changes about your life coming into this. But like, I'd Google search, I'd search through the service dog books in the library. That's not at all what I was finding. I was finding like, your basic service dogs are there to help somebody. If somebody's blind, they can lead them. If somebody has diabetes, they can alert them. Or like 10 ways your life gets better with a service dog. And it's this like high level stuff. I'm like, okay, I get that. I've already decided I want to have a service dog. Tell me what I need to mentally prepare for in bringing this creature into my life. And I just couldn't find that anywhere. So I sat down with like several handlers, several trainers, and like good responsible breeders. And I interviewed them. I'm like, what do people not know about puppyhood? What do people not know about adolescence? What do people not know about the cost of this in general? The way I explain it is 6 Feet to Independence covers 6 areas that most people don't think about considering before they jump into this. And then it ends up hitting them across the face like a cold bucket of water. I do sell it. It is currently off of Amazon because it's getting picked up by a publisher. I've got some author copies that should tide me over until it comes out. So I've been giving those away mainly as lead magnets or the electronic version. I do sell it, but it mainly, I try to bring it back to, okay, you've read the book. You can only get so much from a book. Let's sit down and answer the questions that come up from the book and help you get through this, because you can read a book so many times, it's going to have the same information. The first thing that I would suggest getting right is your mindset about coming into getting a service dog, because the creature you're getting, whether it's fully trained or you're training it or it's a board and train or whatever it is, it's a dog first and then it's a service dog. And I know that I personally did not see it that way for my 3 false starts, because I was expecting a service dog. And then, oh, the dog didn't make it through the program. Oh, the Humane Society won't let you adopt one unless they're altered, but because you need it for mobility, you have to let everything grow as it will. Oh, this dog is not at all service dog temperament. Not many dogs can make it as a service dog, but that's not what you see in public. Laying the groundwork, it's basically, are you ready for this? Is this really what you want? Let's take a step back, and yeah, having a puppy you can take everywhere sounds fun, but what are you expecting? And what don't you know? Like, are you aware that service dogs, therapy dogs, and emotional support dogs are different? Are you aware of which one you really need? And then in the book too, it's how did I get here? And it's telling the story of the 3 false starts and how much time and effort and money and heartbreak goes into that starting wrong. And are you able to risk that? Is that something your heart can take? Is that something your mind can take? Is that something your time can take? Are you able and willing to embrace the fact that your first one may not be your last one? It may not be the one that makes it all the way through. Because I'm like, oh, I'm going to rehome a rescue. I'm going to save all the rescues. This is going to be easy. That didn't happen. We got to the temperament test with the trainer. She goes, okay, dog's 4 years old. By the time you finish training, you're going to have to start the next one. And this dog is a hound that has been led by his nose his entire life. And so you are going to be fighting the dog throughout training. I can tell you, go for it. As a businesswoman, I'd get more money. But as a service dog handler, I wouldn't suggest it. And so it's laying out there that not every dog is right for the job. The one that you fall in love with may not be the one that makes it through. Is that a situation that you're willing to risk? And that's the first question you have to ask yourself is, am I able to take on the mental, emotional, financial, time, all of that, the commitment in this to get a living piece of medical equipment that will be able to work for 6 to 8 years and then have to retire? Is that something you can handle? And if not, say that now and save yourself the heartache and get a pet dog, because that's easier. I would say that the mindset that you have to have coming into this is understanding that neither you nor the dog is perfect. And whether you're going to be making mistakes or the dog is going to be making mistakes, or you're going to end up yelling at the dog because you're frustrated, and then you're going to go, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I didn't mean that. I'm so sorry. Or the dog's going to have behavior issues, and you're going to come to your trainer going, I don't even know what to do about this. And she's like, how long has this been going on? And you're like, 3 weeks. She's like, so why didn't you come to me sooner? And you're like, I was embarrassed. And she goes, it's a dog. It's a dog. So I would say that the mindset that you have to have is one of grace and patience with you, with the dog, with the situation. And the more of that you can have, the better. But I don't care who you are. You're going to get to the end of your rope at one point and you're going to want to scream. For me, it's knowing when to keep my mouth shut and just walk away and stop training. And for me, he's a poodle, so he's going to be stubborn one way or another. And so I can push it a little bit, because sometimes it's just, how much do you really want me to do this? Other times it's, I'm done and you can't make me keep going. And that can be frustrating for me, because I'm like, we've got to train. We've got to get that. I need you. And he's just like, woman, no. And so for me, it's knowing when to keep my mouth shut with my dog, and then being able to go to somebody else and go, he's being a butt face. I've had it up to here. And it's going to somebody who's been there and who knows and who can nod and smile throughout your tirade and know that as soon as you walk away, you're going to go snuggle him. You're going to go pet him. He's going to be the most adorable thing ever again. But it's knowing when to keep your mouth shut. And it's knowing that just like you don't work every second of every day and you have off days, the dog is going to as well. And being able to recognize that they're a living being that isn't a robot that works 24/7, just like you aren't. And just knowing that things aren't going to be perfect, and progress in training isn't always when they get it. Sometimes it's when you know that it's time to stop and can read them, and them saying, I know what you want. I'm not here right now. And you being able to say, let's walk away and come back to it later. And sometimes that involves walking out of a store. I say 6 feet to independence, so there's 6 things, because you have 2 feet, the dog has 4. You have to be aware of the method of training, and you have to figure out a trainer before you get a dog. And that's a lot of the times backwards to what people will naturally do. But especially if you're a first-time handler, you don't really know what you're looking for. It's the trainer that can do the temperament test. It's the trainer that can look at a dog and go, okay, looking at the breed, looking at what we know of them, looking at the feet and the head and the ears, and they'll be about this big, roughly. Here's an estimate. For mobility, that might be a bit small, or for your apartment, that might be a bit big. Or looking at the dog during the temperament test, which is really just a snapshot of the dog's life, and going, okay, he's overwhelmed here, or he loves people a bit too much. Like, this may not be the best if you're looking for a dog that will stand between you and people and give you that space. Make sure you have it. And a lot of the times, as I understand, that's due to PTSD or anxiety, is like crowd control, keeping them beyond a certain point. If the dog loves people a bit too much, like Core does, he wouldn't have been the best at that. So it's finding a trainer who knows how to train for the tasks that you're looking for, who knows how to train for obedience, who knows that this isn't a thing that's done in 6 months. This takes time. And if you find a trainer who's like, yeah, give me $50 in 3 months, we'll do it. It's like, no. So it's finding a good trainer. And there are a couple ways that you can like narrow in on that. But the second step after mindset is finding the trainer to be your tour guide through how to make it up this mountain. I know several people who have a pet dog and they bring in the service dog because they're fully aware that this pet dog, for whatever reason, isn't going to be able to do it. Maybe it's too small. Maybe they're fearful or aggressive. They'll bring in a service dog. And you love both dogs. You love them differently because the partnership and the relationship is far different between the two. I had a pet dog while I was growing up and I loved her with everything I was. I loved her, but it's so different. If you're taking a dog out in public, they have to be able to handle themselves with a lot going on. They have to rebound quickly because if you're walking through Home Depot and a big pallet of wood falls and they spook and then can't work for the rest of the day, you're up a creek without a paddle. If you're out and suddenly they don't trust the people around you and they're going, hold on, I gotta protect you. That's not what you're looking for either. If they hit an obstacle and they're like, yep, no way around that, sorry, we're stuck. That's also not what you're gonna want. For the temperament test, what you're doing is you're taking a snapshot of how the dog responds to a bunch of different situations and going, is this a dog that would be trainable, that I would trust out in public? Is this a dog that is worth moving forward with? Do they have a high prey drive? Like if a squirrel crosses the road, are they off? Because if they are and they pull you with them, that's not helping you health-wise. It's several different tests that you put them through just to get a read on how they would react to several different things and whether it's worth trying or not. The temperament test isn't going to guarantee that they make it as a service dog. It's more, is it worth trying? The temperament test isn't will they make it as a service dog, it's will they not? And is it obvious that they won't? The fourth foot is where we finally get to the dog itself. If you haven't looked at, am I ready? Is my mindset ready? And do I have a trainer to lead me through this? You can get a dog. Good luck. But when you have your mindset right, when you have the trainer with you, then you can go into whether it be a shelter to get a rescue dog or look at some responsibly bred dogs and go, okay, what are we looking for? Because it isn't a cute face. They will all have a cute face. You will fall in love with whichever one you get. What's more important is, are they able to be trained for what I want? And that's where having the trainer helps, because the temperament test, it's suggested that you don't get the breeder to do it because the breeder wants to see the best in their pups. You don't want to do it because even if it's subconscious, the moment you form a bond with one of those and go, oh, I want them to win, you'll start seeing what you want to see. It's best to have a trainer come in and go, okay, let's do the thing, and which ones are best at it or which ones aren't. Because if you go into a rescue and you're thinking, oh, I want a lab, and the trainer temperament tests a lab and she's like, they're not going to work. They're too much dog for you. There's too much energy here. There's too much fear here. You may not see that because you want the dog. But having somebody there to help you through it that's where you find the right dog. And so with foot 4 of the dog itself, is a breeder or rescue better? Because from a breeder, you're going to get a 9 times out of 10, you'll get more sure genetics if it's a responsible breeder, because responsible breeders are the ones that look at health testing, that look at what are we looking for. You can go into a rescue, you don't really know what you're getting for emotional baggage, health baggage, any of that. That said, there are well-bred dogs that something will creep up in, because every dog has their surprises. But if you're looking to set yourself up for the best, go with a breeder that breeds responsibly and cares more about the puppies than the money, that health tests, that looks back at their lines and goes, okay, so their great-great-granddad was a carrier of this recessive gene, and so was their dad, and so was their mom. So is that, like, what happens then in the puppies? In a rescue, you look at the dog. When it comes to breeding, you look at the dog's lines. And so that comes with a higher price tag, as everyone is fully aware. When it comes to the dog itself, the dog is what is going to be your lifeline. You have to be able to depend on the dog. Being able to find the right one is like finding the right walker or the right wheelchair. Do you sit in it comfortably? Can you use it comfortably? Will it hurt your back to use it? But really, the dog itself isn't the most important part. It's what will be your lifeline, but the most important part is figuring out which one is the right lifeline, and that is why you want a trainer first. You want to make sure your mindset is right first. You want to make sure that you relatively know the general idea that you're signing up for, which is why that ends up being foot 4. Foot 5 then is your rope team, and it's who you have behind you, because you can go out and see a service dog team in public and it'll be the dog and the handler, and that's what you see. What you don't see is, again, the trainer, any breeders they have, and family, because I don't care who you are going through this, you will have times when you want to throw your hands up and quit. And if your pit crew is throwing nails in front of your tires, it's going to be harder. If your pit crew is actually looking to help you get out there and win the race, it'll be a bit easier. For me, part of the reason I have Core as a mobility dog is that my joints will randomly give out. It feels like they fall out of socket. I don't think they do, but that's what it feels like. If I'm walking Core in a store and suddenly I can't use my wrist, and the people I'm there with aren't willing to help, like hold the leash or do whatever needs to be done, again, I'm up a creek without a paddle. There will come a time when you need somebody else to take the dog. And sometimes when I had Yaha, it was once a week. I need like 2 hours to myself. I just need to be able to go and hide in my room, and I need somebody else to watch him. Because if you're around somebody all of the time, they get on your nerves, whoever they are. Like, you can love them like the world itself, but they'll get on your nerves. And so my rope team would take him for an hour or 2 a week and let me go to my room, catch my breath, make my bed, do my homework, whatever it was. I just needed a step away. My rope team would be the ones that told me, go for a walk, call your trainer. My rope team would be the ones who told me, yeah, he's not looking well, and I know you want him to be okay, but I think we need to call the breeders and ask if we need to take him to the vet. Because me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, he doesn't look great. But if I call the breeders, what are they going to think? What am I doing to their dog? And they're like, no, you need to call the breeders because they're the ones who have the answers. You need to call the trainer because she's the one that has the answers that you need. You're stumbling around in the dark, and love can be blind. That's another thing, is that your rope team doesn't love the dog as much as you do in the way that you do. And so that they're able to point out, he needs to stop jumping on the screen. You need to keep an eye on your dog because he finds the trash and digs through it, and who knows what's in there. So step 5 is the people you have behind. And in the book, there are letters to those people going, hey, the dog isn't just theirs. What you do impacts them. What they do impacts you. I understand that you think that this is a handler dog situation. It's not. And there's also one in there going, to the unsupportive family. What the heck? Do you have any idea how much goes into this? If they're just looking for attention, they could pretend to break a foot and it would be less expensive. Just for attention with a service dog is a very expensive hiring choice to make. And let me walk you through why. Because you're not going to listen to them. Because you know them. You've grown up with them. Hear it from someone on the outside. Stop throwing nails in front of their freaking tires. It's just making sure that those you're around and those you're living with, working with, are aware that they're just as much a part of the team as you are, because sometimes you need to be talked down off a ledge. $6 is the price, and part of that is the cost, as in money, as in breeder, rescue, trainer, vet bills, treats, leash and collar, like everything. Part of it is the public, because fake service dogs are a thing and they are a dangerous thing. Part of it's the time you're putting in, and part of it is that dreaded day when they have to retire, and the knife to your heart that is. Because this partnership isn't like a pet and an owner. It's a partnership. You are one creature with 6 legs, 2 brains operating it, but your brain isn't always just operating you. The dog's brain isn't just always operating them. One brain needs to operate 2 bodies a lot of the time. And so because you become one creature, when the dog retires, it rips that apart because you're no longer working with the dog. And ideally, you would ease into it and you would have already trained your next pup and can ease them into it. But you're working with this dog for 6 to 8 years. And that's not easy to rip apart. And so let's look at the price. Let's look at what are you going to be paying? Because if you get to this point and you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then you see all this laid out and you're like, oh, if that's what pulls you up short, let it. Draw a line in the sand and don't cross it. And if this is what would push you across the line, it may be better not to go for it. I think it's foot 5 with the team. And it's like, if the dog throws up in the middle of the night, who's cleaning it up? Because if you can't stand the sight or smell of puke, you have a couple options. Which one are you going to choose? You can't pay for something. Where does the money come from?